It's time we clear up a big misconception about walking, running, jogging. Should you or should you not heel strike? Guess what? I'm here to tell you today that heel striking is perfectly fine, 100% normal. So you can put all those worries aside and start heel striking today and be perfectly confident that you are going to be okay, with a couple caveats. So let's start with something simple such as walking. Should you heel strike when you're walking? Actually, it's 100% normal to heel strike when you walk. You must heel strike when you walk. If you don't heel strike when you walk, you're going to look very awkward. You're not going to cover any ground or get anywhere quickly, and you're going to bounce on your toes as you walk around if you don't heel strike. Heel striking is very efficient during walking because it gives you a rocker, an ability to roll through your foot, establish some momentum to roll and continue momentum as you move forward through space. The sole factor of heel striking and creating that ankle rocker leads to so much efficiency that lets us as humans walk for miles and hours on end without issue. Now let's go to the other extreme of performance, something that requires a high amount of force, such as jumping from a running start. So think about going up for a layup or going for a dunk when you're playing basketball. That requires you to heel strike as well, because you have to find a point where you transition that horizontal momentum to go vertical. So if you're trying to see how high you can jump or dunk on a basketball rim, you have to heel strike if you are going to run towards that hoop and try to jump up and touch the rim or dunk. So it's perfectly fine to heel strike because you have to do it if you're going to play sports or athletics. And we know that not every time someone goes up for a jump or goes up for a rebound that someone gets hurt. So it's perfectly fine, perfectly normal to heel strike. Where we start getting some increased risk for injury is when we talk about the repetitive nature of a heel strike when it is applied for a braking force. Going back to the basketball analogy again, if you're going to jump up for a rebound and do so consistently for a full entire game and do so for a whole entire season, there's a lot of capacity that needs to be built up in your patellar tendon, your quad tendon, in the knee to be able to withstand those change of direction forces. And so oftentimes injury expresses itself when you get out of proportion to what your capacity is capable of doing. So if you exceed the capacity of what those tendons feel comfortable doing on a regular basis, either from a standpoint of repetition, how many times you perform that movement in one particular game, or the volume of games that you play on a repetitive basis, that's where the potential risk for injury starts increasing, again, if that gets out of proportion to what the body's capacity is capable of doing, which is why there's benefits to training, especially when that training is applied in a thoughtful and systematic way. Now let's get back to running, because I'm sure there's a lot of runners who are watching this video, because runners are always curious about heel striking. Again, heel striking is very normal. It's the braking aspect of a heel strike that becomes problematic. So here are some examples of running form and running technique at a slower pace. We're going to show an example of someone who is not heel striking, and then we're going to show an example of someone who is heel striking. Very, very subtle differences, but what you will notice is that someone is putting pressure through the ball of their foot, and then someone is putting pressure through a little bit more of the heel of the foot. Again, neither is bad. The amount of force that is going through the ground is going to be the same irregardless of where you strike your foot at. If you strike your heel, it's going to put more of the force up at the knee. Strike on the ball of the foot, it's going to put more of the force on the plantar fascia Achilles. So in either scenario, both instances, you have to have the capacity to withstand that. If you're going to heel strike, you better spend some time working on your knee ability. If you're going to forefoot strike, you better spend some time on your foot ability. But I want to go back to the heel striking video again. This heel strike is not bad because there is no braking force. The foot is landing fairly close to underneath of the body. And how we look at this is through a cadence standpoint. A higher somebody's cadence, when you look at their thighs and you freeze frame it on heel strike, you should see that those thighs are pretty well close together. And what that allows the person to do is land on top of their heel. The braking force is where you run into problems, especially when you do it repetitively for hours on end, miles on end, is when that heel lands way out in front of the body. But if you're only running at a 10-minute mile pace or longer, then you're not reaching the speed necessary to have a long enough stride to ever really reach that braking force potentially. So when you start increasing your speed, if you get up closer to an 8-minute mile, then you want to think a little bit more of a whole foot strike, because now you're reaching a speed that requires a big enough stride that potentially if you were to heel strike, it could become a braking force. Again, if you freeze frame it on contact with the ground, if you see those thighs really far split apart, you're probably overstriding. On ground contact, we want to minimize how far those thighs are spread apart in that split position, and that would indicate you have a solid cadence. And this holds true even when you're sprinting. If you're overstriding when you're sprinting, the foot is landing too far out in front of the body. That foot should land pretty close to underneath the body, maybe about 5 degrees in front of your hips. So not much. It should land pretty much underneath of the body. Now if you're sprinting, you're landing on the ball of the foot, because that's just going to allow for the potential to run faster. So if you're getting under 6-minute miles, or you're approaching a 4-minute mile pace, or you're actually sprinting for a sport or sprinting for a race, then you're going to land on the ball of the foot, because that allows you the ability to run the fast. And so hopefully this video provides you with context on if you should or should not heel strike. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's based upon context. So if you're still confused, or if you're still looking for more guidance and would like someone to help you work on your running form and running technique, or help you establish a training program that allows you to run freely or play the sport you enjoy freely without worry of injury, then you can reach out to me directly, and we can work together to set up a program that is ideal for your specific needs. All you have to do is email me, greg@sportsrehabexpert.com, and we'll talk about what that would look like. There's also a link where you can set up a consultation with me as well online, where we could go over all this online through a session, and then once I get all the information, put you through a little bit of a movement screen, I can start writing that program immediately. So that link is down below in the description and down in the comments.